Hello, my name is Shiva Juturi. I'm a theater actor based in Houston, Texas. Six Elements Production welcomes you all from anywhere in the world to join this conversation. No Mr. Karnad and theater. We are privileged to be in conversation with K.M. Chaitanya, award winning director, live all the way from Bangalore, India. Hello, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us so early in the morning from India. Really
My
appreciate
pleasure.
it.
Thank you very much.
Girish Karnad, legendary playwright, director, actor, and a fierce theatre proponent. Girish Karnad's illustrious career spanned over 60 years. We are celebrating 82nd birthday this week on May 19th. The flame has been extinguished, but he has lit up so many of us. Chaitanya started his career as assistant director to Girish Karnad in 1986, more than 30 years back. His first feature film, Aa Denagalu in Kannada, won several awards, including the Filmfare Award South for Best Director and Best Feature Film in 2007. Karnad wrote the screenplay of Aa Denagalu. He also played a crucial role in the film. Chaitanya worked also as an assistant director to Karnad for two television series, Antaral and Swaraj Nama. When Karnad was commissioned by Doordarshan to televise three Kannada classics, Chaitanya directed two of those, which Karnad produced. When Karnad wrote the play Odakalu Bimba, he decided to direct it himself. The first time Karnad was directing a play he had written, he directed along with Mr. Chaitanya. Chaitanya also made two documentaries on Girish Karnad, Nadedu Banda Dari in Kannada and Scattering Golden Feathers in English. Welcome again, Chaitanya.
Thank you so much.
We want you to describe your association with Girish Karnad of over 30 years. When did you meet him for the first time? You call him as your mentor and guru.
Well, actually, my father is a theatre critic. So my father knew Mr. Karnad, but I had never really interacted with him as much as even said hello to him because he always came across as a very intimidating genius. So I used to see him in public appearances and so on. When I completed my master's in Hyderabad Central University, I had got a job in Mumbai. So I came back from Hyderabad to Bangalore to pack up my bags and shift to Mumbai. And my father said, "Why don't you meet Karnad?" Because he was in Mumbai for a long time. Probably he'll be able to give you some tips on life in Mumbai. So I went to meet Mr. Karnad. And one of the things that I had heard about Karnad is that he's a stickler for time. So he had called me at 9 o'clock. So I went outside his house at 8:55 and waited and stepped in exactly at 9. And he saw me and he spoke to me and he asked me what I was doing. I told him what I had done and so on. And then finally he said, "Why do you have to go to Mumbai? Won't you work? Will you consider working for me as an assistant?" So I couldn't believe it coming from him because I hadn't expected this turn of events. So I said, "Okay." And I said, it's a great honor for me to be working with you, sir. So that's how my journey with him started. I was an assistant director to him in a couple of television serials, and then I became an associate director for this feature film called Kanuru Hegedati. During the filming of Kanuru Hegedati, which is actually based on Kannada classic novel by Kuempu, who's the first Gnanpith awardee in Kannada, Girish Karnad during the filming got the Gnanpith award. So he became the seventh Gnanpith awardee, and he had to leave for Delhi in the middle. So it was the first feature film I was working in, and Girish Karnad was a director. He was a big name, and he had to go to Delhi. And the cinematographer of that film was S. Chandra, who had shot Malgudi Days. So I thought that he's going to put S. Chandra as the director in his place, and I'll be assisting Mr. Ramchandra when Mr. Karnad is not present. But Karnad surprised me by saying that I should take over as director in his absence. And it was all completely new for me. My first feature film that I was working in, and I was stepping in as director in his absence. So that is how he encouraged me to kind of step into the shoes of a director, and that is how I learned on the job, because I'd learned looking at him, and now he was giving me an opportunity to direct. And later on, he produced two Kannada classics, which he made me direct, and he directed one of them, Om Namo and Kusma Bale, which are again very important works in Kannada language. So he kind of mentored me through my career, making sure that I got a hold on the medium.
Excellent, excellent. So that shows, how Mr. Karnad was very open-hearted in terms of giving opportunities to young generation. I think that was kind of inborn. I'm sure he saw that experience himself, where he went through that, and then he kind of imbibed that for the next generation. Uh, Girish Karnad, as you know, Chaitanya, he was playwright first, but then he became a theater icon. Then he became director, actor. How do you see Girish Karnad donning so many contrasting role plays as an artist? And all of them, he showed brilliance. We all know growing up as an actor, most of the time, as far as Girish Karnad is concerned, in television and films. For example, I grew up watching him in Malgudi Days, the TV series Khandan, Turning Point, which was on Science. Then, obviously, in films like Telugu film Anand Bhairavi, Samskara, and then he directed Utsav. And then, of late, recently also, he was in 2018, he was in Ekta Tiger and so on and so forth. So nobody really knows, the other side of, or very few people know Girish Karnad's other side. So can you just highlight, how he was able to kind of mold himself to different roles at different times during his career?
In my documentary on Karnad, there's a place where he mentions Kirtinath Kutkoti. And he
Correct.
says after he wrote his first play, Yayati, which became a very big success and turned him into a national figure, he was looking for a subject for his next play, he says. So he says, I wanted a subject. And there he says that Kirtinath Kurtkoti had written in his book, Nadadu Bandha Dari, that in India, nobody had explored history properly as objects for a play. And Girish Karnad says, why not? I thought. He says, why not? That why not actually defines Mr. Karnad. Every time he saw something and he felt interested in it, that's probably what ran in his head, because he was a genius. He was very capable. So when he read Kirtinath Kutkoti writing about how playwrights have not used history, he said, why not? So perhaps that's how he took up cinema also. When he saw movies and when he saw the kind of movies that were being done, he probably said, why not? Why shouldn't I try my hand at that? And that is how he has approached most of the fields that he has come in. Another thing is that once when the Indian government offered him the Padma Shri, he was initially offered the Padma Shri as an actor, which he rejected. He said
Oh,
that if you offer it to me as a playwright, I will take it. I don't want to take it as an actor. So that kind of shows where his interest really was. He saw himself as primarily a writer and a thinker. He wanted to be a poet, but he became a playwright. But once he became a playwright, that is what he wanted to be. So cinema, all his experiments in cinema were ways of informing his writing. And one of the things is, of course, uh, if you want to live as a writer, it's difficult, because as a mean, you can't depend on writing as a means of livelihood in India, at least.
correct.
So
Unfortunately.
he used to be quite frank about it. He always said that it is not possible for me to do playwriting and make a living out of it, so I'm going to act. And he once told me, acting is the easiest thing to do, because you have to give very little trouble to the rest of your faculties. If you have a good memory and if you know how to gesticulate properly, you'll get halfway there. And he used to underplay his achievements as an actor. He would say, I am not such a great actor. There's Anant Nag, there's Nasir, and so on. He would always say that he is not uh, at that level. But a lot of us who saw him, and I've seen how he used to prepare himself, how he used to work on his acting, he was actually a very fine actor. In fact, I am very happy that in my first film, Adinigudu, he played a very crucial role, and it is because of his role that the film got the kind of power that it did.
Wow. No, and he is also told, in many interviews that when he got into films, how films and theater and his playwrights kind of intertwine in terms of applying, different techniques
You see,
of filmmaking back to theater and vice versa.
yeah, you see, the thing is that plays are written to be performed on stage. And one
Correct.
of the things that you have to understand when you write a play is how it is going to be acted. So, being an actor, it was possible for him to see, he was using acting all the time to help him write better. For example, in he says in my documentary that on stage, even a look can do so much, even a gesture can do so much. You probably don't need words many a time. So a lot of playwrights who come purely from a literary background might not understand stagecraft, might not understand lighting, or might not understand gestures. They will want everything to be written in dialogue, you know. But Girish Karnad, because he was an actor himself, kept on using that acting to inform his writing.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful. Coming to theater, because we're talking about theater, specifically, what do you think his contribution, in theater has been in India as well as around the world? People are still enacting his plays like Yayati, Tughlaq, Haywadana, and so many. He has written over 20 plays. Most of them got awards. They got translated in so many languages, which is amazing. English, Bengali, Urdu, Hindi, you name it. Kannada. They were written originally probably in Kannada, but then they were translated. So he was the ultimate master of creative arts. So I think his contribution has been underplayed. So it has to come out for the new generation now. So Chaitanya, can you highlight, what sort of contribution he has put and how we can kind of imbibe that moving forward?
I'll give you an example of what he told me. He wrote Tughlaq originally, and Tughlaq was his second play. And when he first wrote it, it was seen as a anti-Nehru play. It was seen as a play that is critical of Nehru. Later on, the play was performed after Indira Gandhi was assassinated, and apparently the entire audience went gasped when Tughlaq says, "What is the point of having all these forts and these structures if you have to crumble? You'll crumble from inside." She had been assassinated by her bodyguards, and the audience gasped, and they thought
Correct.
that the play was on Indira Gandhi. Later on, it was performed in Pakistan, and Ziaul Haq, the military dictator there, banned it because they felt it was an anti-Ziaul Haq play. A similar thing happened to the play when it was performed in Sri Lanka because they thought it was
Wow.
against the repressive Sri Lankan regime there. So this is the quality of his plays. The thing is that his plays resonated. It was about history, but he was very contemporary in what he was addressing. So that kind of quality, that the quality that great playwrights like Shakespeare perhaps would have, was what was there in Karnad. Whether he took mythology, history, or contemporary subjects, his plays were not stuck in their time. They had a transitory value. At every time, they would be relevant. At every time, they would be reaching out to us and telling us something about our society and politics today. And that, I think, makes him stand out among most other playwrights.
That's correct. That's correct. I think well said. He often takes history and mythology to tackle contemporary issues of society. So I think that has been the hallmark of his playwrights, where actually even the stories he doesn't create themselves. Somebody has to ask, and he goes back to history and then pulls it out and weaves it out of a historical context, which again appeals to the contemporary audience. So coming to Yayati, because Six Elements production is doing a play reading this weekend. I want you to talk a little bit more about Yayati. We are celebrating 60 years of its creation, and that was his first play. What can you tell about Yayati through your association with Girish Karnad? It dealt with the expectations of an Indian family against personal freedom, and also female emancipation, right? In terms of women getting suppressed and the relationships. So how Yayati was born, how it has carried through all these years, over 60 years, and it's continuing on.
Yeah, see, Yayati was his first play. It's the first play that Karnad wrote, and he wrote it when he was 22 years old. He had been introduced to mythology and the Shastras and Puranas in his life, from his life in Sirsi, where he used to hear these stories as stories being told in Shirsi. But when he was 22, he had applied for the Rhodes Scholarship because he wanted to go abroad. He wanted to study. In those days, it was a big challenge because he came from a family which didn't have so much means to send him abroad. Like today, it must have been very expensive to go abroad and study, and there must have been a lot of resistance against going abroad in those days. And so a very interesting thing he says in my documentary is that he was interested in sociology, he was interested in history and literature, but because he wanted to get the Rhodes Scholarship, he chose to study mathematics because he felt that in mathematics it's easier to score good marks and get the Rhodes Scholarship. And he took
That's
mathematics as his subject, got the Rhodes Scholarship, and got a seat in Oxford. And after that, he never took mathematics again because he felt that it had done its job of getting him the Rhodes Scholarship. But actually, because he was a mathematician, you can see that impeccable structure in all of Girish Karnad's plays. He has a very structured mathematical way of approaching the play, the structure of the play, the way it is plotted, and so on. So when he was 22, when he had got the Rhodes Scholarship and he wanted to go abroad, all these tugs and pulls in his life, people telling him not to go, and his ambition to go, and the worries in his family that he might go and marry a foreigner, he might not come back, and all those things. And he says that kind of worked inside him. And he says that when he wrote Yayati, he was surprised. It took him by surprise because he was born a Konkani. He grew up he was born in Maharashtra, a Konkani born in Maharashtra. He grew up in Dharwad, where Marathi and Kannada are spoken equally. But this play came out to him in Kannada, which is the next language of his. And it was not coming out as a poem because he wanted to be a poet, but it was coming out as a play. And
okay.
he says that he was like a stenotypist, that it was telling him and he was writing it down. So you see,
Wow.
it almost just erupted from him, the play Yayati. And so that is how the play Yayati was born. But another very interesting thing was that 50 years after he wrote Yayati, it had been probably translated by others, but Karnad himself had not translated, and Karnad was a very good translator. Most of the good translation of Karnad, most of the translations of Karnad are by Karnad himself because he was proficient in both English and Kannada. So 50 years after he first wrote Yayati, he was asked to translate Yayati again. So he said it was a
Interesting.
bit of a circus. He says it was a bit of a circus because at 50 years, 50 years after I first wrote it, I had to go back to the 22-year-old Karnad who had first written it, find out how he wrote what he did, and how I think of the same subject and write it. So I'm telling you all this because you are reading his translation of Yayati. The translation that you are reading is of the 72-year-old Karnad, who approached the 22-year-old Karnad and negotiated between the two and finally brought this text in front of you.
That's interesting. Very interesting fact, Chaitanya. That's amazing. I never knew about this. So even for the Yayati, team that's going to play this weekend, they're going to keep that in mind. How this was created. Other thing was that coming to your documentary, also talking about EIT, because in your documentary you had clearly shown that there was a publisher, Manohar Granth Mala, which is a small little publishing company which probably still exists. So he had first given the script to them, but they rejected it apparently, and then later on they published it, right? So I think your documentary shows that fact, which is very interesting. Otherwise, this would not Yayati would have never come out if that publisher would not have published, and then we know now that rest is history.
Yeah, actually, Manohar Granthamala is not so small in terms of the place is small, but its achievements are very big. It was called the
Amazing.
Atta in Kannada literature. Atta is the attic. It was a place where some of the brightest Kannada writers would sit in this attic of a place, and they would discuss and they would have arguments, and Bendre and Kurtkoti and many others. And that is where Karnad, that is what shaped Karnad's thought process. He grew up looking at all these writers. So when he wrote Yayati first, he gave it to G.B. Joshi, who was the proprietor of Manohar Granthamala, and said that he has written this play and he wants him to read it. G.B. Joshi was a very big publisher in those days, and he was fond of Karnad. So G.B. Joshi took the play, and he, after a week or so, he gave back the manuscript to Karnad and said that Dasi's monologue in your play is very interesting. And Karnad was surprised because he says in my documentary that the Dasi's monologue is just a corner of his play. It was not such a big thing. So probably he felt that probably GB Joshi didn't like the play and that his playwriting career ends. And by then he had got the
That's
Rhodes Scholarship. So he went to London.
correct.
So when he went to Oxford. So when he was in England, he got a letter from Kirtinath Kurtkoti, who was a very important scholar and thinker in those days. And Kirtinath Kurtkoti wrote to Karnad saying that G.B. Joshi mentioned to me about this play that you had written. I am interested in reading it, but I hope you have not taken the story of Yayati and approached it like Eugene O'Neill. And apparently, Karnad was taken aback because that's exactly what he felt he had done. He was a huge fan
Right.
of Eugene O'Neill, and Eugene O'Neill took the myths and psychoanalyzed them in his writing. But Karnad had a similar approach. But he sent the manuscript to Kurtkoti. Kurtkoti read it and he recommended to Manohar Granthamala to publish Yayati. And because of Yayati was received tremendously in India.
Yeah.
It was
Amazing.
translated into Hindi. It was translated into many languages. It was performed in by the National School of Drama. So, with his very first play, he had arrived with a bang, and he says that that decided for him. He was till then considering whether he has to settle down abroad or whether he has to come back to India, whether he has to pursue his playwriting or not. But Yayati's success decided it for him. He said that he didn't want to stay in England anymore. He wanted to go back to India. He wanted to be a playwright. So Yayati was very crucial in that sense. And Manohar Granthamala, which published Yayati, has been the publisher that has published all of Karnad's work. He has never given his books to any other publisher. At least his
Wow.
Kannada books have always been published by Manohar Granthamala. He stayed loyal to that publishing house since his very first play.
Excellent. Excellent. Uh, Chaitanya, we know enough about Girish Karnad's work, but you've been associated with him for over 35 years, uh, and very, close to him. Not many people know his personal side, right? How was he as a person? as a family man. I know he was activist all along too. So how do you describe his personality?
I would say the thing that defined him was that he was extremely receptive, and that is what made him such a good talent. He was always looking for ideas, and it didn't matter where that idea came from. He was always open to being confronted. He was open to being argued with. He was open to being given suggestions. That is why Mr. Karnad, when I saw him growing up, was actually a great had more followers among youngsters, because he himself was very young in the way he approached every topic. So you could see that he was surrounded by youngsters. He was more interacting with youngsters than people his age. You could I could fight you could fight with him, you could argue with him, and he would still listen to you and work with you. And that is what he fought for. At the end of it, if you see, his activism and everything else was
Correct.
for what was for that quality that defines India. He had seen India being shaped into this democratic, secular, you know uh, inclusive country. And when he saw that being threatened, he couldn't take it. He had to fight against it. He had to voice against it, and that defined him, I feel.
So just moving on to films, right? So we talked his theater and work and his personality. Uh, you've also been associated with him on many films as well, where he assisted you, you assisted him, and he also acted. Uh, so, in your personal view, how do you think theater is different than filmmaking, which in the eyes of Girish Karnad and also from your perspective, do you think that for upcoming actors, theater is a good foundation?
Well, theater is a great foundation. It's a field on its own. I mean, for example, people like me, I would not have done cinema if there was enough money in theater. The only reason I had to go to filmmaking is because you can't make a living just doing theater. But
Correct.
theater and cinema have their similarities and have their differences. But from my own personal experience, I have seen that anybody who's trained in theater is a delight to work with when it comes to filmmaking, because they have their basics right, they have their discipline right. In theater, you're supposed to remember an entire play. In cinema, you're given perhaps just a passage, or four lines, or a paragraph. So the rigor that theater brings to you as an actor is very important, and it definitely makes for better actors. As far as Karnad was concerned, he was perhaps the first person I saw who perfectly used theater in his cinema. He was very aware of what a good cinematographer can do to cinema. And as I said, he was a very democratic person. He knew that filmmaking is a teamwork. So he would work in tandem with his cameraman, with the actors, with the art director, and so on. Take a lot of suggestions from them and continue to create using all of them. And that is what it taught me, that that's a theater quality. You see, in cinema, a lot of people think that the director is a dictator. He has the entire film in his head, and he has to tell the framing, and he has to tell the actor how to express, and the editor has to cut exactly where the director says. But in theater, that is not how we work. You see, there is somebody who's putting a stage. We are talking to them. Once the play is on stage, there's nothing you can do, because the audience are there. You have to get it right. You have to work as a team, and that teamwork that you learn from theater greatly helps you if you want to be a good director in cinema, because you are working with creative people all the time. Actors are creative, cinematographers are creative, editors are creative, music directors are creative, and the more you use all of their creativity, the better your product becomes finally. And that I think I learned from Mr. Karnad.
Excellent. And I know that even Karnad acted in more than 100 films and also more than 5 languages too. So, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Hindi, Malayalam, English. So it's the variety that he brought to the table in terms of his films and his acting talent was amazing, Chaitanya. So absolutely, I think we could see that the creative side of his was reflective on his films also on screen.
Yeah.
So I think we are at the fag end of the interview now. So one last question. We know that Girish Karnad is no more, the legend is no more. But there is such vast body of his work that is there for us to take on.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can
There
hear
was
you
a
now. Can
little.
you come again? Sorry.
So we know that Girish Karnad sir is not there anymore, but there is vast body of work that he has left behind in terms of his plays, his films, his craft. So what advice do you give to the young generation to carry his legacy forward for the next generation to come? Chaitanya.
Well, that's a difficult territory because Girish, one of the things that Karnad really hated was to give advice. Because when I was 22, he had translated a play by El Kunchwar called Vasamsi Jirnani, and I wanted to direct that play. And there were other assistants of Karnad along with me who were my colleagues, much older than me, and they were shocked because Vasamsi Jirnani, most of the characters were above 50 years old, and here I was a 22-year-old who wanted to do. Most of them were above 60 years old, and my group of theater people, we were all kids. I mean kids. We were in our 20s, early 20s, and I wanted to do Vasamsi
Right.
Jirnani with those actors. So I went to Karnad and I said, but it is anyway theater. I'm going. If they act convincingly, then the audience should accept it. So Karnad said, I have no problem. Age is something that has been indicated in my play, but it is up to your actors to perform it. And then I did the play. And before I started the play, I asked him, what is the advice that you would like to give me uh, when I do this play? He said, the best advice is no advice. The only way you're going to learn what is right and what is wrong is from your experience and is from how you interact with the subject. And at every age, it's going to be different. Because sometimes if I tell you what is right or how to approach this, you might be fixed with my mistakes and my wrong approach of things which are informed by my age and my experiences. So the way you might find new ways and new approaches to the play from your experiences and your age. So the thing is that uh, all of us have to learn because all of us live in different times. For example, I am somebody who saw television for the first time when I was in school. We
Correct.
are talking to a generation which has seen the mobile phone from when they were young. I am still in fascination with the fact that there is a mobile that can. I'm fascinated by the fact that you and me are talking to each other across countries through this medium, right? But the youngsters aren't. So our advice to them is coming from our baggage of our time and our technology, and
Correct.
they have a different approach to art altogether, and that's how it should be dynamic, and it should be evolving.
Very well said, Chaitanya. I think thanks you so much for your time, Chaitanya. Girish Karnad, as we know, he had Padma Shri, Padma Vibhushan, then he also won the Jnanpith Award, the highest literary award. And not only that, he also took a lot of leadership positions to take our culture and art forward, like director of FTII, chair of Sangeet Natak Academy, director of Nehru Center, London. He was also president of Oxford Union. So that itself shows that, how much he was craving to pass on by, organizing and rallying the next generation. So we want to thank you once again from Six Elements Production to be part of this interview. Really appreciate
Thank you
your
very much.
time.
It was a pleasure.
Sorry to interrupt, Shiva. So, but Mr. Chaitanya, if you have a little 5 minutes, we want to have we have a questions from the viewer. If you can
Definitely,
take
definitely. Sure.
Yeah. So there is a question from Nandini Kambi. She asked,
Hi,
did
Nandini.
yeah. Hi, she asked, did Karnad ji have a favorite poet or a playwright from Karnataka? And the second part of it is, Chaitanya, have you ever considered adopting one of his works into a movie?
Well, I'll answer your second part of your question first. I do have the rights for one of his plays, Anju Malige, which he translated as Driven Snow. But I wrote to him and I said, sir, because he didn't like his plays being made into films, because he was a filmmaker and a playwright. So when he wrote something as a play, he wrote it as a play because it doesn't work as a film. It has to be theater. If he thought that Tughlaq will make a good film, he would have written Tughlaq for the film, for the screen. But he wrote it on as a theater piece because he wanted it to be on stage. But there's this one play of his called Anju Malige, which I have the rights for and which I wanted to do. But he discouraged me. He said, don't make this as your first film. It's a very dark and dreary subject. I don't want you to start your career with this. When you're quite broken and when when you have seen enough of life, then you consider whether you want to do this or not. So yes, I have that one play. I might probably do it at some point. As for his favorite poet, Karnad often quotes Bendre. Even in my documentary, he quotes Bendre freely, and he named his daughter Shalmali after a poem by Bendre. So Bendre is a poet that influenced him quite a lot. I don't know about. I don't. He respected all his contemporary Kannada playwrights, definitely, but I don't think there was I don't think he has indicated anywhere that there is a playwright from history of Kannada that he admires. He surely respected all of them and he worked alongside them.
Thank you. Thank you. So I know we are like 10 minutes over the time, but do you think you can take another question, Chaitanya?
I have no problem. I have all the time. You can.
So one more question from Sri Mirajkar. Okay. He asked, he has been a huge contributor to Kannada theatre in Bangalore also. Rangashankara hosted a lecture in the honor of his birthday on 19th. Is there a recording of that available that you know of? I'm not sure.
Rangashankara does document everything that happens on its premises. If you can send me details of this, I'll find out from them, or you could write to Rangashankara and they'll respond to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. One more question was, let me see, from Srini. So tell us more about movies like Kadu and Utsav, if it is okay.
Instead of telling you about the films, I'll tell you something that is interesting about it, about Utsav especially. Utsav had Rekha in it, and Girish Karnad wanted Amitabh Bachchan to play the villain in the film, and they had an appointment with Amitabh Bachchan to meet him on a particular day at 11 o'clock. He and Shashi Kapoor were supposed to go and see Amitabh Bachchan, and Shashi Kapoor, unlike Karnad, was not too good at keeping time. So he was late, and they say that by the time Shashi Kapoor got ready and they waded through Mumbai traffic and reached, they were 45 minutes late. Amitabh Bachchan had asked them to come at 11 o'clock and he had given them 1 hour, but they reached at 11:45. And when he reached there, Mr. Karnad profusely apologized to Mr. Bachchan for being late. And Mr. Bachchan apparently said, "It's okay. You still have 15 minutes. I'd given you an hour. So if you can tell me the story in 15 minutes, I'll consider doing it." So Mr. Karnad, in 15 minutes, told him the entire story of Utsav. And after hearing the story, Bachchan said, "Yes, I'll act in this film." But unfortunately, later on, Mr. Bachchan was in Bangalore filming for his film Coolie, and he had that accident where
Correct.
where his stomach was hurt and he was immobile for many months after that. So the shooting had to carry on because Rekha's dates were taken, and so Shashi Kapoor stepped into the role that actually should have been played by Bachchan. So if you all can imagine if Amitabh Bachchan and Rekha were in a film at that time when all those great rumors were doing rounds, what sensation it would have been. As far as Cardu is concerned, I am not. I haven't heard much from him about Cardu. I've seen the film. I loved it. The the one who wrote dialogues for Cardu, I forget his name, was very closely associated with Karnad for the next two projects. He was a writer himself. And Amrish Puri, I think it was Amrish Puri's introduction into cinema. Karnad introduced many great actors to cinema. Vishnuvardhan, who was the superstar in Kannada, was first seen in Vamsharuksha by Girish Karnad. Shankar Nag was introduced by Girish Karnad in Ondanundu Kaladalli. Shekhar Suman, who then became a very popular anchor and so on, he was introduced in Utsav. Similarly, Sonali Kulkarni. Cinematographer Rajiv Menon first entered cinema in Chelavi, which was directed by Karnad. In the same Chelavi, Sabu Cyril, the famous art director, was introduced. So he has just brought in
Wow.
so much talent into the world of cinema.
Om Puri also, right? I heard Om Puri
Om
also.
Puri
So he
also.
started Om Puri in NSD.
Actually, the thing with the story with Om Puri was that Om Puri was rejected by the FTI board. He had
Really?
applied for acting course and he had been rejected because he was thin and he was pockmarked. And they felt that it won't suit, he won't suit the actors course in FTI. But in the FTI director has one extraordinary power. He can overrule the board and take a student. But usually no director has used that power. But Karnad used that power, overruled the board, and gave Om Puri the seat. And the rest is, of course, history.
Wow. That's something. So he was very good at spotting talent too.
He was very good at spotting talent, which was.
Excellent. I think we are done with all the questions. I know there are more questions coming. Probably we'll send you offline, Chaitanya, because people
Sure.
want to know so much about Karnad sir. But once again, we want to thank you, Chaitanya, on behalf of Six Elements Production for your time. So now we wanted to introduce the Yayati cast also in the next 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
Uh,
Thank you.
so thank you once again. I think you can stay on,
Very much.
Chaitanya.
Yeah.
But again, we are cognizant of your time. But it was really interesting conversation. You're telling so many things about Girish Karnad that so many people don't know about, and
Thank you
your
so much. I
association.
love the interaction also.
Thank you, thank you. So now I will have Shauri, our young Sutradhar of Yayati play, introduce the cast of the play live to the audience. With the play is scheduled for play reading this weekend on May 23rd and 24th. Shauri, go ahead. It's all yours.
So, hi everyone. My name is Shauri Gomatham. I am a 10th grader in high school right now. And I am very involved in my high school theater department. And I got the opportunity to do this a while back, and I'm very excited for it. And in my free time, I like to make videos and things like that. So yeah, as you said, I am playing the Sutradhara in Yayati. And today I want to introduce my performers to you all. So first up, I would like to introduce Yayati.
Hi, Shauri. Thank
Hi.
you so much. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Chaitanya. Thank you so much for coming. And wow, it was incredible. The kind of learning that you've had and you've shared with us, it's amazing. Thank you so much for that information.
Thank you so much.
Well,
Thank you.
I'll keep it really quick. Six Elements Productions. This is my second project with Six Elements, and I love the team. Number one, and apart from you, maybe I'm the only person in this in an environment who met Girish Karnad in person. But our engagement is been very different. You know, back then, 21 years ago, I was a door-to-door salesman. So I had reached out to his house, selling something, you know, as a salesman, you know, and he was watering plants at that time early in the morning. I reached out to him selling a particular concept. So very briefly, and he shooed me away. You know, I think he was not interested in that product. So that was my introduction, and I can't believe myself that after 21 years, I am part of Yayati Play Reading. You know, it's incredible. To talk about Yayati, as we all know, Yayati is a man of greed. There's so much of greed in him for immortality that he, you know, earns for playing Yayati or play reading Yayati. For me has been an incredible journey, and I want everybody to please tune in on Saturday and Sunday. If it was not for COVID, I would have told you please come to the theaters and watch us perform Yayati on that day. But we are coming to your doorstep, so we want you all to you know tune in for us and watch our play and give us more feedback. We would love to do more and more like this in the future. Thanks to Six Elements Productions for giving me such a great opportunity. I'm playing Ayati. Wow, it's incredible. Thank you so much, Shauri.
Thank you. So next up, I would like to introduce you all to Devayani.
Hi, Shaurya. Hi, Chaitanya.
Hi.
Nice meeting you this way. Very good insight about Girish Karnad and, you know, unknown facts that we have come across today. I'm Shanti, and apart from my IT job, I actually I'm a choreographer here in Dallas. We've done some concept-based shows, but you know, this is my first time at theater. I'm loving it. Thanks to Six Elements Productions for giving this opportunity and connecting many new talents across US. Thanks to them, and they are keeping live this the enactment or the play thing, the theater going. From a character perspective, I am Devyani. You can call me the villain of the play, right? I am the just to give an insight to the audience, Chaitanya, you know very well, but just to give an insight to the audience, I am the wife of Yayati, and actually I'm also a daughter of Shukracharya, a Brahmin teacher, and I've been friends with Sharmishta, who has been loving Yayati from the beginning. So somehow I am jealous of her. I don't want to be defeated. So I play as a curse through my father, and then I become the wife of Yayati. That's where the struggle all begins. And she couldn't accept when Yayati is ready to accept her as his wife, and she couldn't accept the defeat. So the curse again. So this is the play, and I am the villain of the show. That's it from me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next up, I would like to introduce Swarnalata.
Good evening, all. Hi, Chaitanya.
Hi.
Hi, Shauri. And I play the character of Swarnalata, but my name is Priya Tanugula. Theater has always been in my blood, I can say that, because ever since I was a child, my first influence of Girish Karnad sir was the Telugu movie Ananda Bhairavi. Oh my God. I mean, that made me actually say your life is worthless if you are not learning Kuchipudi. And that's how I actually got into Kuchipudi. And I think I was just 5, 6 years old. I watched that. Like, I asked my mom to take me, three more times to the theater to watch that film. And his one particular act, I mean, he's not a trained dancer, but the way he even like as Kuchipudi Guru trained his body, his mind to get into that character is something which I can never forget to date. And that has been my inspiration to actually get into acting and just not act, but feel the role. I mean, that's what the life lesson I take from him. I mean, just get into the character and feel the role for whatever you do. I mean, be it just acting without any dialogues, as you rightly put it, or just saying a monologue. So thanks to Six Elements for giving me this wonderful opportunity. Honestly speaking, I wasn't actually sure if I could actually do justice to Swarnalatha character after seeing the huge monologue, but it's a challenge I'm trying to take up and put in my best. The reason why I could truly identify with Swarnalatha is she's innocent, yet there is something in her which is, trying to say that, I need to prove to the world for no good reason of, my husband trying to say, prove your chastity to the world. And he's gone, and there is some kind of uneasiness in her saying that he will never return, but you never know. I mean, I still rather deck myself up waiting for his return, everything put on its plate, just the way it was. And it gives me, because I'm a feminist, I mean, end of the day, I don't have any patience in saying, but oh my god, the kind of sincerity she had towards her be it her husband or even towards Devyani, the protective nature, and even towards the concern she showed to the princess, something which is like a takeaway, a life lesson for me after going through the character. It's very easy to just say, hey, I'm a feminist, and I don't believe in this, but actually believing and then trying to feel the lady who is that innocent yet so powerful is something I would take away from the character. And I cannot thank Six Element enough to given me this wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
Now, next up, I would like to introduce Puru.
Hi, my name is Rakesh Podapati. I am a theater actor in Dallas, Fort Worth, Dallas area. I've done about 7, 8 shows in Dallas area, and I would like to, from the bottom of my heart, thank Six Elements Productions for this great opportunity. And first of all, thank you, Chaitanya, for taking time and coming, accepting and giving us insight into the mind of the great Girish Karnad, the way he thinks, the way he operates, a glimpse of the thought process. And thanks a lot for that. We can learn so much from your experiences that you shared. And I'm playing Puru, son, really nice son of a greedy father, greedy daddy. And what I like about this character is it has conflicting sensibilities. On one hand, he likes his father a lot. He likes his father so much that he's ready to give away his youth. On the other hand, he wants to collude with a woman who he considers his mother and destroy this stuffy palace that belongs to his father. So he's really nice, and he also kind of hates love-hate relationship with his father. So these in differences in perspectives or sentiments is what kind of attracted me to the character. And I think it is an amazing play. It is an amazing play. And if I wish we had an opportunity to do this on stage live, with movement and all, because that gives us, we could learn so much from writings like such as the. Yes, I mean, it is like a workshop, acting workshop. I mean, there are so many ups and downs in emotions. Every single character has those. and you can learn so much. I mean, it is such a great experience to be able to read it or do this play. And I hope you will join us again Saturday, Sunday, and give us some feedback. Hopefully, because I'm pretty sure you worked with really experienced, really super talented actors, but hopefully we'll get some tips and suggestions from you after you watch us perform this plays coming Saturday. And thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Shori. Thanks, Shogaru.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now I would like for you all to meet our Chitralekha.
Thank you, Shauri. Namaste, everyone. I'm Chaitanya Jasti from Dallas, Texas, originally from Andhra Pradesh and India. Chaitanya Garu and Shiva Garu, loved your interaction, and I learned many new things. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
In this play, Yayati, I'm playing the character of newlywed Princess Chitralekha, wife of Prince Puru. What I like about the character is her courage to question her father-in-law, Yayati. And the fun fact is that I am the rookie to the Bharata kingdom in the play. I will be the youngest one and the newest addition to the Bharata kingdom in the play. And I'm also a rookie to theater considering the rest of the crew here. So I have known Six Elements Productions, Srini Garu and Lavanya, since their inception a few years ago. Always in awe with their passion and dedication towards theater, great people. Through this time, my husband and many other friends, they played different roles in the production. And I had a chance to see how fun it was. Sometimes really hard, but really fun. When this opportunity presented, I instantly volunteered, and it had been a fun ride so far, and I'm fortunate to have the opportunity to learn many things about how to emote, how to do theater, and all those things along this journey. Please do watch us this weekend, and we are sure you'll enjoy watching it as much as we are enjoying performing it. Thank you.
Thank you. And now finally, I would like to introduce our Sharmishta.
Thank you, Shauri. Excellent job you're doing. And thank you, Chaitanya and Shiva. So it's great hearing certain facts and fun facts about Mr. Karnad sir. And I'm sure if our time permits, we would like to have Chaitanya back on, knowing more about Chaitanya than, since we covered Girish Karnad this time. So, and it's always pleasure to have personalities like you who are so down to earth, and absolutely pleasure. So, yes, I am playing Sharmishta, supposed to be the bad woman, but she's actually the savior, you can say. And that is what I love about Yayati. So one thing which I really like about this this Yayati is Girish Karnad portrayed women. He took mythological ancient times play, right? But the way he portrayed women was very modern, very dominant. Like they're intelligent. So which showcases Girish Karnad as a feminist, and also which pleases me because I can really associate with such things, right? Like it's super. That is why I like playing this role, but it's not easy. So we are trying hard. We will try to justify as much as we could. So, and I hope you all would enjoy too. So before I leave, I think Yayati, who is like so involved in his role that he forgot to tell that he is actually Anand. Anand, could you please come back and introduce yourself?
See, that tells you how much I am living Yayati every day, day in and day out.
Right? I know.
I don't consider this a play read. I consider this a play. Yayati is in me now, so you'll see Yayati on Saturday and Sunday. By the way, my name is Anant. I am based in Dallas, Texas. I work for a small bank here, and I'm also a radio jockey. I do Kannada, Tamil, and Telugu and Hindi shows on radio. And here I'm there, Yayati, for you all. Thank you, Sharmishta.
Of course.
You're my savior.
I'm always for your rescue, man.
Yeah, you're my savior. You're the one I'm gonna come with.
Let's go to wilderness. All right, back to you, Anaya. Thank you.
Thank you, Yayati team. Thank you, Shori.
Thank you.
So I want to mention about what Lavanya said, Chaitanya, that you had warned me saying that I'm not going to talk about myself. So I think you stuck to your word. So we will ask you for another favor next time, where we'll talk about your work and your life too. So please give us that opportunity. This was more about Girish Karnad, sir. I think thank you so much once again for coming
Thank
on.
you so much, and I wish you all the best for the play. I hope you break a leg.
Yes, we'll all break a leg. Thank you, sir. Now I'll pass it on to Srini Garu, one of the co-directors of Six Elements Foundation, to close the session with his final remarks. Srini Garu, take it over. Thanks once again, Chaitanya Garu, for
Thank you
giving us
very
the
much.
opportunity.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shiva. You did a superb job. Thank you so much, Chaitanya Garu. Really thank you for taking time to come in the morning hours. I loved all the trivia you gave. Some of the questions were also from me.
Thank
I'm
you.
always awed by Girish Karnad ji from his journey. As a young kid, I saw Swami, one of the first movies I saw, and like Priya and others said, Ananda Bhairavi and others, he's a true legend, a man who he's not just, there are many writers who write things, but they don't stick by it. But he's a person I saw and followed who believes in what he writes, and he really sticks by it. So whatever his beliefs are, some people may agree or disagree. So that is something I really look up about him. And I really wish he did a lot more things in movies and theater, and really in awe. So thank you so much. Like everybody said, we would like to come back and hear from you, your journey also. Thanks for accepting and joining us today. Really,
Thank you very much.
thank you so much. Coming back to the team, Lavanya, you did a superb job in initiating everybody together and taking up this complex play, which we had a lot of discussion about. What should we do next? And I was not sure about this, just owing to the complexity of the play, but she really pushed, saying we should do it, because primarily we wanted to do something to as a tribute to Karnadji's passing, and we could not do it. And we had an option to say, oh, we can do it, it is COVID or whatever, and stay put. But we said, no, we have to do something this year, and we have to do it closer to his birthday. So that was our motivation. And thank you, Lavanya, for pushing me to pick this script and making it happen. And everybody, I saw the rehearsals, please join us on Saturday and Sunday, Chaitanya. That will be super. They have put a lot of effort over weeks to prepare, because a lot of times people think reading is easy. It's quite tough because you have to enact it again, and it's a very popular thing in the US, but not so popular in India. I think I wish more people do that and take classic plays like this to public in simple avenues, because not everybody can do and effort to rent a play. So I want to welcome all the artists back once, if it is okay. Shauri, great job with getting the artists together. Priya, everybody, Chaitanya, Anant, Rakesh, all of you, thank you so much, Shanti Garu, for joining and doing this. We really appreciate your efforts in making this. Six Elements is your organization. We have just created a film, and thank you for making it such a pleasant thing today. Looking forward to the weekend. Looking forward to some of you guys' action and taking that forward. I saw that Lavanya was quickly taking a picture, but I saw your phone.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I was about to say, like, all of us, we should say, Yayati, and then I'll take a picture. How about that?
Should I also say, I think,
How about I take a picture with you not seeing my phone? I did.
Okay. Then I'm ready. Yayati.
Yayati.
Thank you.
Chaitanya, you want to give a silly pose too?
Everybody do.
Yayati.
I think the whole thing is getting recorded, right? You don't need to take
Of
pictures.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
This is such a big assurance just before the play, having to know you, Chaitanya. I mean, and thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you,
so
Six
much.
Elements team. It's a big booster, certainly. Thank you.
Absolutely.
see you all on Saturday.
Good luck to all of you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chaitanya.
Chaitanya, maybe you can sleep now.
I have to go wake my daughter up.
Uh-oh. Okay.
All right.
All right. Good day.
Bye.
Good
Thank
day.
you.
Bye,
All the
everyone.
best to you.
Good
Thank
evening.
you so much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaskar.